on your leadership and management philosophy, I remember one of the nicknames you had was Mack the Knife.
Right.
Tell me about that.
Well, I guess there's a song out that Bobby Darin sang, Mack the Knife. When we had to cut heads, I cut heads. I mean, I also anticipated if we'd gotten too large, a little flat, and a little flabby, I would do layoffs. And I didn't enjoy doing it. But you owe it to the organization to keep it at maximum pitch. And how about the person who is, killing himself, or the lady who's killing herself, working hard, and you have some people who are just not up for the performance we need. And I think it's unfair to the organization and unfair to that individual. So my view was you give them an evaluation. We evaluated people every year and said, look, you got to improve in these areas. And if they didn't improve, then they were on probation. And if they didn't improve from there, they had to leave. So I think that's how they call me Mack the Knife.
Well, it makes sense. We've seen a lot of that this year in the tech world.
Yeah.
One of the contrasts for your leadership style was, I think Phil Purcell was more top down. You were more bottom up. What does that mean?
Well, I just believe that, bottom up, you really understand the organization and what they need. And that doesn't preclude you from making, the big macro decision from the top. I just don't believe to run a people's business. You call it investment banking, you call it finance, you call it sales and trading. It's a people's business. Computers do some of it, but basically people are making decisions. You got to know the people. You need to walk around and look at someone and see, you can tell when people are stressed, and go over and talk to people.
You're good at reading people. You're good at seeing.
Well, I hope I am. I'm sure I've made a number of mistakes, but
you said it sounds like with clients even you'd sit and you'd read them, and that's part. It sounds like it's one of your talents.
You have to, yeah. Well, I think I told you this earlier. There was one client who's so abusive to my assistant. I reached over and grabbed his tie and pulled him across. Said, "Talk to me like you talk to her." Never happened again.
I love it.
Yeah, Kim.
That's a way to stand up for your people. I love it.
Well, you have to.
You have to.
And whether it's your superstar trader salesman or your assistant, you got to help them. Look, Purcell was a good guy. He just wasn't walking around and doing the things that I thought were important. And in one of my trips to the West Coast, I went out to see Safeway stores. And I got there really early, had nothing to do. So I said, take me to the local Morgan Stanley Deanwood office. So I go in, and all the salesmen, they probably never seen someone as senior as me in management in there. They're just bombarding me with this complaint, that complaint.
That's great.
Yeah, no, I was taking it all in. So when I get back, I talk to the manager who runs the whole system. I said, look, this is what they're saying. And so I'm talking to Purcell, and he says to me, you shouldn't do that. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, Ed Brennan, who ran Sears, would never go to a Sears store without, telling the manager he was coming.
Huh.
And I said, Phil, this isn't fucking Sears. It's Morgan Stanley. We don't do business that way. So we just had a different view of how to manage. And good guy, smart guy. Thank God we did the merger. But I believe you get involved. You let managers manage, but you need to be involved with them, and you need to be seen and engaged with the people who work for you.
And what was it about your culture that you think reflected well for Japan? You said obviously Mitsubishi, the guy had been a trainee. He really respected Morgan Stanley as part of why they kind of saved you in 2008. Like, what about the culture were they noticing?
Well, I think it was back then we were a small private partnership. So it wasn't a huge firm of 1,000 people. It was probably 400 or 500 people. What he observed was the camaraderie and the teamwork of how bankers and traders work together to do deals or to give advice to clients. And that really stuck with him. And his goal was, when he went back, he told me afterwards, he wanted to take that culture and inculcate it into the Japanese structure. So that's what he remembered, and he said
the camaraderie and working together.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kind of internal trust of people. How is that different, do you think, than some of the Japanese culture at the time?
I think it's very hierarchical. I mean, it's
much more about someone telling someone else what to do.
Right.
Versus
Exactly.
That makes sense.
And, up until the last 25 years or so, maybe 30 years, management here in the financial service business have basically stayed off the trading floor and stayed in their offices.
That's not who you are at all.
You want to know what's going on, and you want to know what's going on and what's not going on. And sitting out on a trading floor where you could have 150, 200 people.
It gives you a sense of everything going on.
You can tell in a minute what's going on. So, and to me, given the job I had running a division, that's what I should do. I should be on the floor, not in my office.
Maybe this is an inappropriate question, but were the trading floors more fun 30 years ago?
Absolutely.
It feels like the energy would be higher. You could say incorrect things.
Absolutely. You go back 35 years ago, you walk on a trading floor, you'd see a Frisbee going across the trading floor. Someone would flip it and go over there. You'd see a delivery guy come in with, 20 boxes of pizza, and people kind of socializing. And for a period from about 11:30 to 1:30, no one did any business.
Yeah.
It was much more relaxed and easy, but you didn't have the volume and the turnover in the markets like you have had in the last 20 years.
So it's had to become more professionalized.
Big time. And people trade and make decisions 24/12. It's just constant.
Is there any way we could have more fun today like they used to? It seems like it was more fun then.
It was more fun. I don't think so. I think you have to take the fun and say, this afternoon we're going to have a softball game. Or we're going to do a 10K race.
But you can't be screwing around quite as much.
Not as much, not at all, no.